that I recommend that you have to take one of these stoves apart. I've got my pointer in my hand. Starting here on the left, you can see that I'm pointing at a pair of needle nose pliers. I have a sequence of wrenches here. I have a 5/16 wrench, I have a 3/8 wrench, 7/16 wrench, and a 1/2 inch wrench. Now if you don't have these combination wrenches, you can use a crescent wrench, an adjustable wrench. Over here on the far end I have a flat screwdriver, a flat tipped, and I also have a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. These are tools that I recommend that you have for this process. Okay, to get started, I have a small ice cream bucket here, and what I want to do is I want to make sure that this stove is empty of fuel. So I'm going to take this filler cap off, this fuel cap, and any fuel that's in this tank, I'm going to make sure that it's empty, and then I'm pouring it out into some sort of container. Okay, this one didn't have much fuel in it. It's pretty empty, just a little bit. But you want to make sure that this stove is completely empty. And leave this cap off. Just set it aside over here, out of the way, so that we don't have to worry about it. Take this fuel, which like I said we didn't have much left, and set it aside in a good safe location. First thing we have to do to take this stove apart is we have to remove this generator. So I'm going to find my 7/16 wrench, and I'm going to come to this nut right here. This is my generator nut, and I'm just going to start loosening this nut. See, I've got the nut loose. Another thing that I'm going to do is these 2 screws on the back side, they're number 2 Phillips. I'm going to take those screws out, and I'm going to take this piece of metal off, which is the generator bracket. Make sure that when you take your stove apart that you put all your things, all your screws and everything in the same place, so that you don't lose anything. All your parts and everything you want to lay out very cleanly, and you don't want to be losing things. So I'm going to take the generator bracket and the 2 screws, I'm going to set them over here by the fuel cap. At this point our generator is loose. Okay, so if we pull it outward just slightly away from the stove, you'll see that we can get the jet out of this hole. Okay, that's a good thing. We're going to get out of that hole, and we're just going to kind of pull it outward. Look at that, it rotates right around, and this is going to pull off. Now you'll notice I got to mention one thing real quick. On the bottom of this generator there's a little brass piece here. You can see that it has a hook on it. When you take this apart, that hook fits in this hole. See that? So when you take the generator off, you'll have to take off and make sure that you unhook that hook out of that hole. If you pull on this string or this thing, you're going to see that you're going to expose a wire. I should have wore a lighter colored shirt. You see this wire? This wire goes inside the generator, and what this wire does is it keeps the generator clean. Every time you turn that fuel valve on or off, this wire moves inside the generator, and if there's any debris or any kind of buildup inside of this generator tube, this wire will take care of that. If you look down in the end of the generator, you'll see that there's a little hole in there. That hole, that small hole inside, that's where this wire goes. Again, anytime that you have dirty fuels or anything like that, and when you turn that switch on and off, this wire moves in and out of the generator, and it removes it removes those particles. It gets them flowing and gets them moving out of the way. We're going to take this wire and set it aside over here. Make sure you don't lose it. From here, I think I need the 3/8, I believe. Nope, smaller. 5/16. I'm going to remove this small jet. Now some of the generators have this and some don't. So I'm using a 3/8 wrench as a backup here. And I've got a 5/16 here on the jet. And I'm going to remove the jet itself. See that? So I got this holding it. 3/8 holding the backup, and 5/16 on the jet. So you get this jet loose and you can take this out. You'll notice on this side there's another hole inside, a small hole, and that's where that wire goes in. Okay, so I'm going to set the generator aside, and I want to talk briefly about this jet. This jet is the jet that the fuel sprays through. Okay, I want to make sure that the jet is clear of obstructions. So I have in my hand here, I have a small, see that little needle? I'm just going to poke that needle through and make sure that my jet is clear of obstructions. If you get this orifice, this jet, and you hold it up to the light, sometimes you'll be able to see light through it. But in either case, you want to make sure that that is clear. If you don't have something like this to poke through, come back and find your wire. See this wire again? And just poke it through the end here. Make sure that your wire goes through. See that? So this just, you want to move that in and out a little bit. And if there's any kind of debris or anything like that, you want to just move it in and out. And what we're doing is we're taking any buildup or anything that might be in there, we're taking that out. Set the jet aside. Now there's one more thing I forgot to mention. When it comes to this wire, I recommend that you take some steel wool and just kind of drag this steel wool, drag the wire. You know, you're holding your steel wool and just kind of drag the wire through. So bear with me here. Okay, so I'm back, and in my hand you can see I have a small chunk of steel wool. I'm just basically wrapping this steel wool around this wire, and I'm just kind of dragging the wire through. This is one of the easiest ways that I know to get rid of the debris that builds up, because this little wire, again, this is what cleans your generator. When you burn dirty fuels and things of that nature, this is what cleans that. And so you can already see on my fingers that I've got dirt and stuff, and I've seen a few pieces of dirt fall. So this is going to be a very important step to cleaning this wire, and what that'll do is that'll help improve your flow of your fuel, because you won't have all that buildup on this wire. When you have that buildup on this wire, you're going to be restricting the amount of fuel that you can flow through your generator. Okay, now looking at the stove here, I want to take off the grate. Okay, this is the part that the pot sits on. This is my grate. Take that off, just lift it straight off and set it aside. Now I have access to another screw. This is also a number 2 Phillips screw. This stove in total Oops, that's the flat. Let's get the Phillips. This stove has a total of 6 screws on them. This one that I'm taking out is the only one that's different. All those 5 other screws are all the same size. So I'm going to pull this out. This is the only screw, again, that this stove has that's different. All the other screws are the same. The other 5 screws are these right here. They're identical. So now that I have that screw out, I can take my burner ring assembly out, okay, which this consists of a bunch of little rings. This is my burner rings. Okay, and when I put all these things together, these burner rings with this plate, that becomes my burner ring assembly. So I'm going to take that out, keep it together. Don't get them out of order, because basically what you have to have is you have to have a flat ring, and then you have to have a wavy ring, and then you have to have a flat and another wave and another flat and a wave and a flat, and so on. Okay, so don't get them out of order. That's our burner ring assembly. Now we want to remove this plate. This is what we refer to as the burner bowl. What this does is this is the part that really makes the flame go upward. Okay, this is our burner bowl. So we take the burner bowl out. It's a really hard, solid piece of steel. So once you get the burner bowl out, you can see there's another screw right here. So we want to take that one out. So that's the screw, and then on the side of the stove there's a screw here, and if you flip the stove all the way around there's another screw here. So I'm going to take both of those screws out. Again, these are the 5 screws that are all the same size. Again, the only screw that was different is the one that holds the burner ring set down. So there's my 6th screw. From here I can grab this and pull straight up, and this is referred to as the burner box assembly. Now when I bought this stove, this aluminum was all bent up and it was bad. You cannot replace this because it's riveted on here. You can see these little rivets right there and right there. If you have any kind of rust or anything like this on this burner box assembly, don't worry too much. A little bit of steel wool, you can hit that with steel wool if you want. If you want to take like some mild dish soap and a little water and some steel wool, you can clean it up. Now you're not going to get it to shine or anything like that, but honestly it's just cosmetic in my opinion. Inside of the burner box assembly you can see I have 2 wicks right there. 1, 2. These little wicks right here. What those do is when I first start squirting fuel through here through my jet, it wets those wicks, and that's what helps in priming the stove. So I'm going to set that burner box assembly aside. You can see that the stove is starting to get a lot simpler. From here I'm going to take the 1/2 inch wrench and I'm going to put it right here, right there, just like so. And I'm going to remove the valve stem assembly. Remove this out. You don't have to worry about anything falling off, or there's nothing flying or nothing spring loaded or anything like that. So this is the valve stem assembly, which can be broken down further. You can take this part off. You can see that looks like a valve stem on a car tire. Okay, thus the valve stem assembly. If you have these two pieces together, this is considered a valve stem assembly. Now this right here, this part, is the valve assembly. When you rotate this fuel lever, you can see that this hook that we would hook that little wire to goes up and down as we turn this. Okay, now let me talk a little more. Oops, wrong one. 3/8. This little bracket right here, if I grab my needle nose pliers and just kind of pry back and forth, this little bracket will come off. See, I can kind of loosen it up. Whoops, pull that off, and it'll remove itself from this valve assembly. You don't need to do that, but I'm just showing you that it can be done. From here, I take my 3/16 wrench. See that? Right there, 3/16. And take my 1/2 inch as a backup. And I'm just going to remove this nut. Just to show you what's inside here. Pull this nut off. You'll notice that this fuel lever, once you get this nut off, you'll notice that this fuel lever will pull straight out. See that? On this fuel lever, you'll see an O-ring that you could put Vaseline on when you put this thing back together. Put some Vaseline, and you see a stainless steel pin that's offset. So look, when I turn this, you see that stainless steel pin goes down, and then it goes back up. Okay, so keep that in mind. What that stainless steel pin does is it rides in this little groove here, and so as that little thing gets turned, that's where you push this up and down. Okay, so that's what's happening inside. This has to be entered from the bottom. See, so you basically put this in from the bottom, and if you look inside as I push it in, bear with me here. Look inside as I push it in, you'll see that corresponding notch in there inside. See that? That's where that thing lines up. So what's happening, again, bear with me. So I'm inside, so that's how you get this raise and lower of things inside. Well, when you lower this thing down using that fuel valve, when you lower that valve and it pushes this down, what happens is when this tank of fuel is pressurized, when this thing comes down, this pushes against this valve stem, and that releases fuel. It comes in through this hole down here. The fuel comes in through this hole, and it goes up into this assembly because, again, we pressurized our tank, right? So when this comes down, it pushes on that valve stem, and that's where we get the flow of our fuel. So you want to make sure that your valve stem is good. So I'm going to set these parts over here. The last thing that we can break down is the pump kit. You can buy a pump repair kit if you'd like, but some of them have this little ring. You just pull it outward and unhook, and you have this little ring. Let me do that again so you guys can see. So I just get my pliers here and I get this little ring out and I grab onto it and I just pull it away, and then I unhook it. See that? Set that aside. From here, your pump can pull straight out. The whole pump. Everything can pull out. This pump portion consists of the pump cup and nut down here and the pump stem. Okay? You notice that this thing is nice and oiled up. So I'm going to take my rag. I'm just going to kind of clean this stuff a little bit. I'm not going to get too crazy about it, but I'm just going to kind of clean it up a little bit. We're going to put some fresh clean oil on it when we put this thing back together. So you want to kind of take a look at your pump cup here. Make sure that you don't see any crazy damage or anything like that. You want to make sure that your pump's in good working order. So just a very quick visual inspection. We're just kind of looking. Everything looks good. So we're going to set that aside. Now inside here you can see that I have my valve stem. This can be unlocked counterclockwise, and then you can take this all the way out. Again, it's a counterclockwise movement, and this thing will come out. Now last but not least, inside here, you see that flathead screw hits that check valve inside? You can take that out, but I'm not going to do that today.